movies of various genres and decades. Stay tuned for this episode.
Hey everyone, welcome back to MovieNauts. This is episode 31, and we're going to be talking about supernatural and the occult type films. Kind of a wide subject area there because it spans decades. So I'm going to let Gary start up this time.
Okay. I'm going to start with a movie called Frightmare from 1983. And this was, you know what? I don't remember if it was actually Full Moon or Empire. Empire came before Full Moon, and
Right.
sort of Charles Band founded Full Moon after he had done Empire. But it's one of the earliest movies, I think, with Jeffrey Combs in it. And it's a really cool movie. It's about, there's a guy who's like an old horror movie star, and he's a real jerk. And he winds up passing away, and he decides that he's going to come back to life. They never really go into detail about how he's going to come back to life, but he decides he's going to come back to life. And he sets up this whole tomb area, and it's booby trapped, so once you go in, if you're not supposed to be there, it'll shut you in, and there's gas and all kinds of stuff. But these people are part of a fan club. Jeffrey Combs and some other people are part of a fan club of horror movie, fanatics. And they decide they're going to break in and steal his body and bring him to this house that they've rented, which was where they shot a lot of his films. And so they do that. They literally get his coffin, they take him there, and they're having a party with him. And there's sort of like a Weekend at Bernie's vibe almost, and a little bit of a children shouldn't play with dead things kind of thing. But little do they know, he's literally going to come back and start killing them off. And which he, of course, does. It's cheesy because it's Empire / Full Moon. But it's actually a lot of fun. I mean, it's exactly what you'd expect of a movie like that from 1983. It's a really good time.
Yeah, I love that one.
Lot of interesting sort of genre bending there.
Yeah, it was also on YouTube they had the other title called The Horror Star.
Right, that was the other title for it.
And I think the reason why they had that is because there was another movie, a British one called Frightening from
Oh,
1974.
probably true.
So, and I got those both, and they're right next to each other. And it's like sometimes when I want to go watch one, I gotta make sure I pull the right one for different moods. One's supernatural, one is a British kind of slasher film. But yeah, that one I used to rent that all the time on VHS. And
Yeah, it's very much from the glory days of VHS rentals.
yeah,
It's a fun flick.
oh yeah, that's a great one. I mean, now I got to go watch that one again.
So that's my first choice.
All right, you're up now, Bill. Is he saying?
Bill, we can't hear you.
There I am. Sorry.
There you go.
There you go.
My first movie is Black Sunday with Barbara Steele. It was her big breakthrough movie. She must have been in the States a little before this because she is in an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. But you can tell her voice was overdubbed because this is an Italian film. She was Italian. And it's also or at least the U.S. film debut of director Mario Bava. So it's what really introduced the U.S. to Italian horror movies. It was really the first one of that whole subgenre. And I think Europe, if we're doing occult, I had to do some European movies. So there'll be at least one other. I think they really do that subgenre of horror very well. Personally, I think they really excel at it. I think it probably goes back to the Holy Roman Empire and the religious history of Europe and everything, but they really play on that well. So in this one, it's also called Mask of the Devil, is the translation, the original title, and they come across a mask of the devil, and it turns people into evil beings like Satan or demons or something. Um, and Barbara Steele, I believe, actually has a dual role, or she's turned evil anyway. It's been a little while since I've seen it, but the cinematography is fantastic, like most of the European, but like most of the Mario Bava movies. It's still black and white at this point. Um, and Barbara Steele, in my opinion, should be right up there with the Boris Karloffs and the Bela Lugosi's, of
Oh yeah.
that. I think she should really be up there with any of those. Um, so yeah, it's my first one. And actually, now that I think about it, I think my other European one has a similar plot. I
I
didn't
seem to
realize that when I
recall.
chose them, but
I seem to recall that was where she played like a witch, and then they put the mask on her as they were uh, burning her at the stake. Or maybe that's another movie she did because I just
yeah, I think
remembered.
that's it. Um,
And then she, of course, the witch, they're gonna curse the town, and
and comes back
and comes back, and you know,
hundreds of years later.
yeah.
But yeah, that's the
That's
one. But it should be pointed out if you see most of the other Italian Barbara Steele movies, they're basically different versions of Black Sabbath, almost all of them, which is also kind of funny.
right.
But I still think she's great. She's a highlight in anything she's in.
All right. Well, my first movie is called A la Carta, and it's from 1977. And even though they don't say that it's a vampire movie, it was based on the Camilla series. And because also I noticed one of the characters in there is Lucy Westerner, which is from Dracula, I think. And
Yes,
this
that's
is a
correct.
Mexican horror movie. And I have to say, if you can get through some of the bad acting of it, it's a really interesting story. Uh, really didn't do that well. I mean, it was in some of the English speaking countries, it was called Innocents from Hell or Sisters of Satan. And but a la carta, just take off that end and the last A, and that's Dracula put backwards. So this is basically just kind of a female, um, kind of with the uh, there's just a lot of satanic things happening in the town, and because Alucarda gives birth to Lucy, so that's I mean this is their version of what's going on where Lucy comes from, and it's just weird. I mean for the 70s, um, there is a dubbed version of it on YouTube if anyone's curious to check it out. Um, it's a decent quality. It's not so grainy as the one that I found, but it's difficult to watch. But if you want to see something, really occult vibe, it's got it right there.
In Dracula, Lucy Westerna was Dracula's first victim in the
Right.
story, in the book.
Yeah,
And being his best friend.
isn't it just so funny that just how I mean, I like when they kind of, I don't know, just give new subplots or uh origin stories and stuff like that. And this was 1977, so it's like, you know, you it's of the period, and it is kind of a dated film. So if you can handle dated films, it's something something worth checking out.
With the Alucarda, I can't remember which one of the Universal Dracula movies he was going by Alucard.
Yeah, that's Son of
Doc-
Dracula with
Yeah,
Lon
yeah.
Chaney Jr.
Yeah.
Did he call himself Dr. Alucard or something like that?
No, that's another movie.
Dr.
Okay.
But
Leos
it's
or something was
he's Prince.
son of was
I think he's actually Prince Alucard, and then they figure out later that that's Dracula.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's like
At least in Son of
that's like
Dracula.
I when I first saw that one, I was like going, okay, now I know why he doesn't like the mirror.
But
But
actually,
yeah,
your point about taking stories and having different histories of them, creating that is a point I was going to make in another movie coming up. So you don't mind
all
me
right,
foreshadowing a little.
all right. Well, that's my
You're
first one.
somewhat similar point.
Well, then we're back around to me, and I'm going to jump ahead to 2003 to a movie called Garden of Love. Now, Garden of Love is a German movie, but it's in English. Um, this movie, I hate to spoil it by calling it an occult movie, but literally, if you go read the synopsis of the movie online, it tells you that it's ghosts. So obviously, you know it's ghosts. But because one of the real strengths of the movie, I think, the whole movie, there's a girl who is like her father was like the head of this commune kind of thing, right? And you see at the opening scene, he tucks her into bed, and then some people come in and slaughter everyone in the commune except her. She's injured, but she's not killed. And then it jumps ahead to when she's an adult, a young adult. She's going off to college, and you see at some point her before that you see her like relatives take her in as an adopter. Well, then there's this whole thing of, is she hallucinating? Are there really ghosts haunting her? And like I said, the synopsis says it's ghosts, so it's ghosts. But there's a lot more going on than that. There's a lot of people with ulterior motives and not being truthful. And it's actually a really cool movie. It's a little slow at times, but it's actually a really interesting movie. And it's got some decent gore. It's pretty cool. So that's Garden of Love from 2003.
That one sounds interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So back around to me. And my second one, uh, maybe somewhat marginally a cult movie, but it's definitely an occult movie. Mask of the Red Death, with Vincent Price. One of the Edgar Allan Poe series that Roger Corman was producing and directing at the time. This is probably considered the most successful one, and many would point to the fact that it had the largest budget, but not by a lot. Most of them had a budget of like I think between $200,000 and $300,000, and I think this one was like $350,000. So it still wasn't, even for its time, 1964. Still not huge. It is my movie that I have the shirt for today.
Oh,
Nice.
that's cool.
Monsterama. So I wanted to point that out. But the plot line is there's a plague hitting the villages. You assume it's somewhere in Spain, I guess, and they're burning down the villages, and they save a few of the villagers who have not been infected by this plague yet. But Vincent Price's character, Prospero, he kind of just treats them as like pulling legs off a spider kind of thing, just for his amusement.
Right.
He has them try to kill each other with knives. One of the knives, he wants them to fight in a sword fight first, and they refuse to do that. And then he has this game where they can save each other. He has this whole line of knives on the table, and one of them has poison, and they're supposed to cut themselves, and one of them will die from the poison. That doesn't really go as planned either. I won't give the spoiler about why. But and then one of the girls he has a liking to, even though his wife Hazel Court is there, and it turns out he's also a devil worshiper in the whole thing, in all of this too. So it's got that all going for it. I believe I should have written this down. I believe it was written by Charles Beaumont, who was a really famous horror writer of the time. He wrote a
Right.
lot of scripts for Twilight Zone, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, a number of other movies of that 50s and 60s era. It was very popular in that time. Um, I believe that's right. That's who wrote it. But it's really many point to it as the best of that series. I would say it's second best. I still like Pit and the Pendulum a little better, but it's still up there. It's probably the most polished of all of them, and all of them are fairly well polished. But this one's really just polishing wise, anyways. Definitely at least a little step above on that.
I got to go for me. I got to go with the goofy one, the Raven.
The Raven.
That,
When
that's
we That's the moment they
my,
just got tired of doing these same old movies, so they decided, you know what, let's do this as a comedy. Let's see what.
It's
right.
a
That one
fun
is fun
movie.
though. That one is really
my,
fun though. It's a good movie.
mine is Cry of the Banshee. That's my favorite of his.
Is that a Poe though? That's not a Poe, right?
I don't
It
think
is
so, but it
actually.
was.
It was in the revitalized ones in the late '60s. It's not from the original. It's not from the original run, but it's from the.
Yeah,
But there is a.
it's Poe-esque. I mean that's
Yeah.
because it has that vibe going for it.
Yeah, it's not one of Poe's more famous stories, but it was based on one of his stories,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
one of his lesser known ones. It might have even been based on a poem, maybe. It
and
could be,
it has
but it was
the
based on
animation,
something.
and the animation sequence in the beginning is by Terry Gilliam from Monty Python. So it's
Right, I think I
kind
have
of
heard that.
a weird tie into Monty Python,
It is.
but yeah, that was a good one. I have that on my you remember what is it? Scream Factory or Shout Factory did those 3 Vincent Price box sets.
Oh yeah.
I was like going, oh, I gotta get this when it came out, each one. And it's like I was hoping I was gonna be able to afford it because they're like 60 something each.
Mm.
Now they're probably in the hundreds because they're out of print. But yeah, it's a nice way to get all of it, almost all of his. It doesn't. I mean, they need to do a volume 4. All right. Well, my second one is a very surrealistic, and the name of the movie, it sounds goofy. It's called Death Bed, The Bed That Eats, 1977. And it takes place back in the late 1800s. A demon falls in love with a woman and conjures up a bed in which to make love to her. Well, the woman died during the act, and in his grief, the demon wept tears of blood, which fell into the bed and brought it to life. So anybody that sleeps on this bed is basically it's devoured, and it's not gory by today's standards. But when I first saw this, it was like, this is trippy. I mean, and I mean, this bed is eating the people that lay, and you hear it talking, or it almost sounds like it's mumbling. Um, it's like the demon is trapped in that bed, and the bed is like a really beautiful gothic looking bed, and the scenes, it looks they're very dark in the lighting, so it's like kind of helps give a little mystic vibe to it. But and it's like every 10 years the demon sleeps and then reawakens and has to consume. And it's probably one of the more weirder films I've ever seen. Um, it's for some reason it almost sounds like whoever made the movie was maybe taking some special pills just to get something. it's original. It's possibly one of more original films. I
have to
mean,
admit, a killer bed is new to me. I've never heard of that one
yeah,
being used before.
yeah, and it's like it's really good once you get past certain things, you know, the surrealistic feel to it. Uh, I would suggest watching it in a lit room because you start getting kind of creeped out just the whole vibe. I mean, and that's what I like about older horror movies. They rely on the story and the subject matter to tell, you know, to get across their point. And this is good. I mean, and if you feel like you need to be safe, don't watch it near your bed. And that is my second.
Okay, well, that brings us back around to me. My third, I am going to 2014 and probably the most mainstream movie on my list, which I still think is kind of a sleeper. A lot of people have never seen it. The Taking of Deborah Logan. Um, this movie, I don't really get scared by movies. This movie was really pretty frightening to me. Um, if you don't know anything about the film, it comes across as a documentary following a woman who has dementia. And if you've ever been around someone with dementia, and I figure most of us probably have at this point, they do a really good job of capturing that. But after a while, you start to realize there's something else going on there. And it really becomes a possession movie. And it is absolutely terrifying. I mean, a lot of times, I think that the found footage or documentary footage sort of thing doesn't work that well. But in this case, it does. Like the fact that you can't really see the scene a lot of the time, and all of a sudden you do get an idea of what's going on. It's like, oh my God, where'd that come from? And just having people running around trying to chase what's happening, I think it really serves the movie well. I just think it's probably one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And like I say, it's the only one that's ever really seemed scary to me since I've been an adult. It's a
I
pretty
think it,
terrifying movie.
I think it's because they're using a real affliction as
Yeah,
and
probably. And it's like where does the affliction end and the possession begin? Because they're sort of
right.
blurred together. You don't know
Yeah,
which is which behavior sometimes.
yeah. I remember watching that and I was like, oh wow, this it. I mean, because my mother had dementia, so I can recognize when
Yeah. I mean,
people.
I think in today's day and age, pretty much everybody's been through it with a family member, someone close to them at some point, because
Right.
it just is what's happened.
Yeah, my mom and grandma had it for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. All right, you're up,
And so
Bill.
it's like you recognize a lot of that behavior in the movie. I mean, they do a really good job of capturing that, and then they do a really good job of blurring the lines.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah, that's the one thing. It's like you going, wait, that's what happens? I mean, because I think they also were doing it a little bit from her point of view, if I'm not mistaken.
Um, Not so much, but it's mostly just the documentary crew. But there are like times when, it's focused on her, and there's a whole other backstory there where there was a creepy serial killer in the area when the girl who's now the caretaker of the mother was growing up, and that all ties in somehow. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. Um, it's a pretty deep, I mean, a pretty well layered film. And it's because it is done as a documentary, it starts a little slow, but once it starts building, oh my God.
Sounds interesting too.
Yeah.
All right, back to me. I'm actually doing good movies this week, this month.
What happened to you, Bill? Are you all right?
I know, right? I know. I looked at this, I was like, wow, these are actually decent movies, all of these. So my third one is also a really good movie, The Wicker Man with Christopher Lee, the original from '73. I'll get into the other one in a minute here, but it's an interesting movie. It's supposed to be like an island off Britain, one of the British Isles, Scottish or Irish, something like that. And there's a missing girl, and there's a police officer trying to hunt her down and save her from whatever because she's missing. But there's a lot of religious imagery, and the people on the island are definitely not Christian. The cop is, but the people on the island are very much pagan religion. And I don't want to give away too much of the ending, but there is something about children being involved in pagan ritualistic type things, which you kind of probably figure out about halfway through. I do have to confess, it does get a little slow at times here and there, but it really unravels nicely, and it does have a very good story, well written. British horror. It's not one you hear as much about. When you hear about the British movies, you hear mostly about the Hammer and everything.
Right.
But this one really holds up. And when you say folk horror, this to me is like the textbook folk horror story movie. I mean, this is.
I was going to say that. It's the ultimate folk horror.
It really is. I mean, if you're thinking about doing anything folk horror, want to write a story or make a movie folk horror, you should watch this and see what they did first, because it's really the ultimate folk horror movie.
And if you think about it, there's like a social commentary, because you think about the 70s and there was the clash of the rigid British like Christian society and all the hippies and mods and stuff coming up and challenging that. And so it's like it sort of captures that clash between the Christian cop who's like really sort of stuck in his ways and everything, and then this pagan island of people. And it's a great contrast, and I think it was a social commentary on what was going on at the time.
I believe so. And a lot of my movies are 60s and 70s, when a lot of that social commentary stuff was going on. A lot of that's in Mask of the Red Death too, I feel.
If I might say, another thing that's very unusual about that movie, and I really like it a lot, is the fact that the horror takes place at broad daylight. Nothing's in the dark. You don't have to be fishing around to find out what's going on. It's broad daylight.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And it's human-based horror, even though it has, the pagan,
the occult side to it.
Side to it, but there's like no supernatural, like
no,
not at all.
Like,
you're kind of expecting one a little bit, but it's really there really isn't it. Yeah, it's really not there.
That is a brilliant movie.
Yeah,
and
I think
the
that's
Iron
one
Maiden
of its
song, "The Wicker Man," is probably my favorite Iron Maiden song. So,
oh yeah,
I have to listen to that one. And again, I won't give away the spoiler, but the spoiler is there is a wicker man made out of wicker that you'll see on all the posters and the DVD box set, the DVD covers and everything. That's basically the conclusion of the whole movie.
And then of course, on that same box, you see Christopher Lee with his hands up there and his hair like all
and his hair all
out. And it's like damn. It's a great. I have to concur that it is. I want to say one of his best movies.
It really is.
That's one
outside of his Hammer stuff.
That's one of the all-time great horror films. I mean, I'd put that probably in the top 50 horror films, and that's saying a lot. It sounds like 50 is a lot, but think about how many horror movies I've seen. It is. That's certainly in the top 50.
And I wasn't really expecting that much when I watched it, and I was like,
neither was I.
Actually good.
I'd heard people rave about it, but I never saw it, and I just saw it a year ago or so. And I was like, oh my God, this movie. It's like you said, it's a slow burn at times, especially in the first half. But boy, once it starts going.
That conclusion it is really worth waiting for.
That's the conclusion, but I'm going to warn everyone out there. Avoid at all costs the remake.
Oh, I was going to talk about that for a minute too.
They lost the plot.
If you have a problem with nudity, you probably don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
The remake?
No, the original.
The original.
Oh, the original.
Yeah, if you have a problem with nudity, you probably don't want to watch it.
and one of my early year, late teens crush, Britt Eklund. I mean, I had a crush on her. And then when I got to see when I saw her naked, it was like, whoa. It's like for a young man, it's like, whoa. I mean, I wasn't expecting it. I knew that they were talking about the old religion, that I knew that there was going to possibly be suggestion of nudity. No, they don't
Mhm.
suggest.
It's just there.
It's
It's
just
just
there, right? There's
Yeah, it is.
that movie has that's another thing. Like the horror's out in the daylight, and a lot of the nudity is just right out there in front. It's like
yeah,
it's not hidden. It's not, and it's
like
not
it's
really. A
like
lot
I
of it
said,
isn't really presented as dirty or sexual.
no,
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Strictly
correct.
part of their ritual,
It's
and it's
part of
like,
the ritual. It's just part of their
yeah.
livelihood. It's like normal for them.
I mean, some of it is sexual, but a lot of it's just like, okay, that's just the way it is on that island.
Like a nudist
Yeah,
camp or something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, it
Lord
is.
Summer Isle.
yeah.
You brought up the remake. I haven't seen it, but
Don't,
when I was
don't.
trying to come up with ideas, I never really wanted to see it because I always heard of it as a remake. But then when I was trying to come up with movies, I was researching some, and I did come across this in the remake. I had no desire to see it, but then what I was reading was it's actually not even supposed to be a remake. It's actually supposed to be a sequel,
Oh,
and it's written
Oh,
by the same guy who wrote the original. So now
oh,
it's kind
okay.
of like,
Well, maybe
maybe
I'll
I do want to see
rewatch it
it.
with that
So,
on in mind.
yeah. I've heard
Maybe
yeah.
just
horrible things about it.
yeah.
I've never seen. I've heard mixed reviews about it. I never had any desire when I heard it was a remake because how could you remake it after I saw the original? But
Right.
then when I got to reading about that, not only is it supposed to be a sequel, but also the original, the guy who penned the original did pen this one too. That kind of made me think, well, maybe I want to give it a shot anyway. I don't know. But now
Right.
you have me worried again. Now I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't because you saw it and you said it's horrible.
Oh,
I
never
saw
listen to Ron. Don't listen to Ron.
it.
But you also said you saw some bad reviews about it too.
Well,
So
yeah, but those are reviews. I haven't seen it. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. So I am kind of curious about it now.
I'd
I
try
mean,
it.
if
It
you're
was,
curious, just try it
yeah,
out. But
totally.
I'll tell you, once you watch it, you'll be like going, "Oh, now I get why he said that." I mean,
That's very possible. Very
like
possible.
enter at your own risk is what I'll say. It's one
Because
of
I'm one of
those.
those, I don't really like remakes generally anyway. I mean, I'm sure I can find some exceptions to that, but by and large, I don't really like remakes. But if you sell it to me as a sequel or a prequel or, a similar line or something, like you said about the Lucy, a different aspect to it or something, that I'm a little more open to, a lot more open to actually. Um,
Right.
so I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a shot at some. Maybe I'll see if I can find it free streaming. I don't want to pay for it.
Oh, yeah. There you go. All right. Well, my turn. I'm getting out of the 70s. I'm starting into the 80s, and it's an Italian film called The Other Hell. And it's by Bruno Mattei, if you've heard of him. He did a lot of in the 70s and 80s. He did a lot of pretty brutal kind of movies. Well, this is one of those, and I don't know if I'm saying it right. The nun exploitation. This is like full on. I mean, it's like they don't even. It's not. They don't like touch upon it. It just full on has something to do with the catacombs underneath a convent, and it appears to be there's a laboratory in the convent's morgue, and they're preparing a nun's corpse for embalming, and she relays the danger from the nun's face in temptation by Satan. And it's all she also tells a story about a child born dead because a nun had sex with Satan. And it is just another batshit crazy movie. It is
Those exploitation movies are like that. They are really in your face with
very
the
batshit. I mean,
yeah
there's
with
really,
religious
I mean,
people doing satanic things.
plot wise, it really is everything. It's almost just like they're just throwing out ideas, and um, again, I was just curious. I found an English dub on YouTube, and wanted to watch it without pulling up, the Blu-ray of it. But it's like, yeah, it's just batshit crazy. I mean,
And
but in such a good way. I mean, it's like in the late 70s and early 80s, I find that a lot of Italian horror kind of fall under that moniker of
definitely.
batshit crazy. Um, and it's just, I mean, for a casual horror movie fan won't won't enjoy this. But if you want to go deep into horror, you know, I I I I would say check this one out.
And I haven't seen that particular one, but I have seen some nunsploitation, and generally a lot of them are almost caught softcore porn. I don't know about that, or at least have that element to
The
it because
80s
it's
one.
just some of the.
I
It's just
noticed it's the 80s ones seems to be have a little bit of soft core to it.
yeah, but it was a short-lived fad, late 70s, early 80s. But the
Mhm.
nunsploitation thing was maybe it was I don't know the religious right was starting to come back. Reagan was getting into office. I don't know something like that. Maybe had something to do with it. The in our psyche.
But but Italian. I mean this is where the Holy
Oh yeah, a
Roman
lot more of
Empire.
that.
Yeah, that's where the that's where the Catholic Church is based, Italy.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
exactly.
here they're talking about nuns. I mean, geez. But really, I mean, if you're trying to look for something new to watch, or just kind of getting tired of, you know, it seems like as the decades go from the 60s more, the the stories tend to be more repetitive, that may tell it from a different aspect, but it just seems it's like you watch a movie and you go, oh, that again. You know, I just saw that on another movie. Well, maybe it was instead of the guy being the villain, the girl's now the villain. I mean, just that's the only way now it seems like they can do it. I mean, there's very few original stuff out there, and and there's stuff like this non-exploitation. I mean, this will be kind of cool to have that uh revitalized and brought into to now because it seems like religion is really uh I don't know, it needs a little kick in the spot.
I wonder what Papa Emeritus would think about it.
He probably would love the movie.
He probably would.
Probably would.
It's probably in his collection. I would, you know, that's my third one.
Okay, well, back around to me, and I'm going to jump ahead to 2019. And I know I've talked about Polonia Brothers movies before. Mark Polonia, he does like super low budget movies. They're definitely not for everyone. I happen to love it. It's like almost an Ed Wood thing because they're so low budget, and but he doesn't try to hide the low budget. He leans into it, and he's actually probably one of my favorite directors. I mean, I don't love every movie he does, but I love the way he does them, and I do
Right.
love a lot of the movies. Um, so this one is called Deadly Playthings. Now the title, I got to take issue with the title. There's actually only one deadly plaything in it, not multiple. But
Deadly
it starts
Plaything.
off, what's that?
Thing,
Yeah,
yeah.
Deadly Plaything is what it
Deadly
should be.
Thing.
It
Plaything.
starts
It should
off
have been.
where there's a young girl, and she is sort of like the kid in Sixth Sense because she can see ghosts and they're like constantly haunting her and they're bothering her. And somebody tells her to use her mind and put them all into her doll. So she does that. And her family gets killed. And we see it jumps way ahead, and there's a new family moving into the house, and the doll is still there. And I'm not going to go any more into the plot there, but it's really creepy. It's like I say, it's Polonia Brothers. You're going to get, low budget and everything that low budget stands for, but it is one of the better of his movies. It's an interesting story anyway. Um, you know, and the little girl who moves into the house has been in a car accident because her dad was driving drunk and he's like a recovering alcoholic. So you get that angle to it. And she's mute and she's in a wheelchair and but some things change about that too without going into too much. But yeah, it's a cool movie, actually. So
Sounds
Deadly
good.
Playthings from 2019.
All right. Back around to me, and I'm just going to be stuck in the 70s for the rest of the episode here. The last one was 73, and this one is also 73. Horror Rises from the Tomb. Technically, it's probably the worst of my five this time. It's a Paul Naschy movie. I love Paul Naschy, but this is one of his better movies. So if you were curious about it, it's not one of his werewolf movies, Waldemar Daninsky movies. It's one of them outside of that thread line. But it is one of his better movies. It's kind of a similar, which I didn't realize when I did this until I started the episode. It's kind of a similar plot in that in the 1400s, Naschy's character has his head severed and he's burned at the stake. And then it jumps ahead to modern days where the head is alive and it's trying to reconnect to its body to try and take over the world once again. He is demonic and he takes possession of other characters to try and get them to bring the head and the body together, but he doesn't know where the body is. He has them searching for the body. So that's kind of the plot. It sounds goofier than what it actually is. It's actually one of his better movies. So he did something like 7 or 8 movies in 1973 alone. It was like his most productive year. At least that's what most of them are dated. He's also Spanish, so this is another one of those European movies, and they were hugely Catholic at the time when he was making his movies. That's why most of his movies are co-produced by Spain and other countries in Europe because he really had to base them. It was kind of like Shakespeare. He couldn't make stories about the king and make fun of the king.
Right.
But you could make fun of the king of Denmark and the king of other made up places and just kind of thinly veiled disguise it as your own king. That's kind of what Naschy did with a lot of his own horror movies. Actually, he was poking a lot of fun at religion in some of them, and I believe a little bit in this one too. Honestly, there is a satanic element to Naschy's character. So that's my, and he does have actually I did have a choice of several Naschy movies to include in this, and at least one of them, off the top of my head anyway, is one of the werewolf movies. So if you're looking into you want to do the cult and werewolf with Paul Naschy, his Waldemar Daninsky character, that is also out there too. I believe that one's Curse of the Devil, but most of these have like 4 or 5 different titles.
Right. Of course. Let's confuse the audience, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, it was a lot of rights issues. It was this title in Spanish, and then you had the Spanish translation title. But then when they brought it over, they had to change the name for distribution, and then you had to change the name again for the VHS version, and then you might have to change the name for the made-for-TV version. So that's where, all these rights issues and things, they just renamed movies a lot. But anyway, if you were looking into get Naschy and you wanted to try something that wasn't one of his werewolf movies, I could strongly suggest this one, Horror Rises from the Tomb.
All right. Sounds pretty good there. I mean, I do like I said, I do kind of like some of that European batshit crazy stuff. It's like,
And his does fit in that, although sometimes not always intentionally.
Right. I mean,
but with Naschy, the atmosphere is always the best thing. He doesn't go into a movie set and have a castle made of wood or whatever. He just walks up to a castle that's sitting there in Spain and starts filming. I mean, you just can't beat that atmosphere,
Oh yeah.
And he does that a lot in this one too.
All right. My fourth one is another Italian film from 1982 called Manhattan Baby. And it's a Lucio Fulci movie. And
familiar with his work.
basically it starts off in Egypt where a little girl named Susie, the daughter of an archaeologist, is given a mysterious talisman by an old woman, and it looks like a scarab. And her father investigates a tomb where he is blinded by blue light, and so they return back to New York. It seems like Fulci likes New York, and he gradually recovers his visions, but strange deaths seem to occur around this family because of that amulet. And so that's where I like that it's actually now using a supernatural element, but it's using some like Egyptian things, because it's the again with Fulci, just like most Italian films, if you're looking for a structured story, you won't find it. You just won't find it. I mean, that they're not they never said that they were making, if someone thinks that that's a bad film because there's no structure to it. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point of most Italian horror from the 70s and 80s. It's like there's no point to it. It's just ideas that are put out. I mean, they're very rarely are they cohesive, because there's a lot of head scratching. It's like going, how? But the idea of this amulet from ancient Egypt that is causing all these deaths, I mean, that aspect it's pretty amazing. This is one of his lesser known films. I came across it because I was in the late 80s, early 90s, I was on a Fulci kick, and I had to see as many as I could of his. I mean, I know there's quite a few out there that I haven't seen yet, but I mean, but they actually, if I'm not mistaken, they call him like almost like the Hitchcock of Italian horror, and I mean,
I think
I
that's
don't
it.
know. I don't know if I would go as far as that, but he's very well known for horror. I mean,
He is.
They have,
He's more the Roger Corman of horror.
yeah,
That might be more accurate. I
yeah,
would put him third. I think Dario Argento is first, Mario Bava,
yeah,
and then Lucio Fulci would be the way
oh
I
yeah,
would.
oh
Yeah, I
yeah,
would say if anyone's a Hitchcock of Italian horror, I'd say it's Dario Argento.
yeah, and it's like I just liked it. I mean, and of course it has like a very 80s vibe because it's 1982, so it's kind of slick. The synth
Probably
soundtrack
a lot of the
is,
kitschy music that they used.
oh yeah, that slick synth sounds, I guess
Yeah.
what do they describe them as, fat, it's like the chunky synth sounds. And it's like, I mean, that's one of the things I loved about especially Italian horror movies in the 80s. It's like that synth music. It's like
Yeah.
it's almost like it's another character.
It's one of the reasons that I like the Nashi movies too. Actually, they use a lot of it in there too. You talked about the storytelling of the Italian movies. I do concur with it. I think people are just so used to the American style of storytelling
Right.
because we have Hollywood and everything. And one thing you have to get used to when you see foreign films is they tell stories differently. It's not necessarily worse. Most people would say it's worse. I disagree. I think it's just different. Different
Right.
cultures tell stories differently. And if you can get used to it, I think it's worth checking out. To me.
Well, that's
Yeah.
another thing I was going to say is that my friend Phil Herman, who's a indie movie producer, has been for many years and is just an all-around good guy. He made a post the other day about this. Hollywood has very structured stuff. The stories have to be a certain way
So,
or it will not get made. Whereas indie films are like that too. It's like they can tell stories any way they want to tell it. Somebody gets in their head, they're going to tell the story a certain way. They just go ahead and do it. And I think that's sort of the same thing with the Italian thing. It's like they're not so rigid. It's not so formulaic, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree. And I get
I think
tired of
it's
the formula. That's why I like
I think
it.
it's just ideas. It's just I think they
Yeah.
just base their films on ideas rather than um and it's amazing. I mean, it had what's his name? The American actor Christopher Conley in it. He played the lead, the father. I mean, and it seems like a lot of those Italian movies, they always brought like one American actor in there.
For
And
marketing, usually.
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sure.
and plus also too is like if they weren't getting any work in America, hey, go to Europe.
Hey,
You get
it's a
plenty.
vacation in Europe. I'm sure they get some extra time. They can hang
Yeah.
out in Europe and getting it paid for. And
That's why Joseph Cotton did a lot of them. Did a lot of those Italian movies too.
who was it?
Did a lot of Italian going.
Was it? I think it was. Donald Pleasance, I think, once said that he went and did a movie in America because it was a trip to America for that it was paid for. He didn't really want to do the movie, but I know he did Halloween because his daughter was like, "Oh, I love John Carpenter. You got to do that," or something like that. It's like,
Mm. All right, that was mine.
okay, well, back around to me, and I'm gonna stick with Polonia Brothers, but I'm going with 2026, and pretty much a brand new movie called Dummy. And there's a certain connection to the last one I did, because you've got a ventriloquist dummy that's possessed and starts killing people. And again, it's Polonia Brothers, super low budget. One of the fun things, which, I said he leans into the low budget sometimes. And to me, one of the fun things was that some of the time they use like a puppet for the dummy, and then other times it's a dude in a suit, and it was always fun figuring out which it was. But I also like, and I'm not giving this away. I like how the dummy got possessed. It was interesting. And the one problem I did have, all right, so it's got a lot of the normal cast that you get in his movies, which a couple of those guys are my friends. So I always like seeing them. But the stuff that was the main cast was great. The problem with the movie is they had a lot of remote roles, and the remote roles were not what they sold it as. They were supposed to be like and the characters acted like they were watching the ventriloquist and his dummy on TV, when in fact it was just some other random ventriloquist and dummy scene, and it didn't make sense what they were saying they were watching. That kind of took away from the movie. But otherwise, if you take that stuff out of it or ignore that stuff, it's a fun movie. And an interesting little twist on it, and it's an interesting thing.
Sounds good. That kind of reminds me a little bit of remember that 1978 movie Magic?
Yeah, and I haven't made it through that movie. I have to admit, it was kind of really
That's a tough.
slow. That movie is
That is.
really slow. So I have I've tried to watch it a couple times and never made it through it.
I almost added one from Anthony Hopkins, but I hadn't watched it in years. As Audrey Rose. I just bought it on
Oh,
Blu-ray.
I love that movie. I watched it a few years ago. It's really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah,
The ending's a little hokey, but up
yeah,
until that point, it's really good.
1977.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like that's all I gotta say. But all right, that sounds like a pretty good one.
Okay. All right, back around to me. My last movie is not so much an occult movie as it is a cult movie about a cult. Helter Skelter, which was about the Charles Manson murders. It's taken from the book Helter Skelter. It's based on a true story, based on the book Helter Skelter, which was written by the lawyer who helped convict Charles Manson. And I believe it was made for TV, apparently.
Yeah,
It's fairly long. So I wonder I assume it was probably run over 2 days, because it runs around 3 hours. But if you don't know, the Charles Manson murders was they murdered a very famous actress, up and coming actress named Sharon Tate, and an heiress, a really rich heiress, La Bianca. Charles Manson did not murder anybody, though. He got his cult members to do it.
At least
And
anybody he got convicted of.
yeah,
There are stories that he might have killed a couple people on the ranch.
well, that could be, but what he was convicted of.
Right, right.
Fair enough. What he was convicted of, at least, was conspiracy to commit murder, where he was talking other people into committing the murders. I would not be at all surprised if he killed somebody on that ranch out there in Death Valley. But it plays out very much like a mystery. This lawyer interviewing people who were a part of the Manson cult and getting them to speak with him about what he believed and how he believed it and everything. And It's titled Helter Skelter because Manson was apparently a big Beatles fan, and Helter Skelter was his favorite Beatles song. And he believed that in the lyrics of Helter Skelter was this belief that black people are going to rise up and take over the world, but they're going to be led by one white person, and he was going to be that white person. None of this stuff is in those lyrics anyway.
No.
He was a nut.
Yeah, it was in. He was schizophrenic. And this was just in his imagination that he felt these things were in there.
Have you heard any of his music?
No.
I've heard about it. I have not actually.
He was actually not bad. The sad part is, had he been given a recording contract and put some albums out, maybe none of that would have ever happened.
Right. Yeah, because I think
he might have been all right. Or
he
something
was actually look up his music. You can find it on the internet. Look it up sometime.
Yeah,
it's actually not bad for it's typical of the time period, but it's pretty decent. He
I've heard that. I've heard that. I mean, I guess he's dead now. Where's money going to go now? It's not going to go to him.
Yeah. I don't think he was ever earning any money off of it anyway.
No, it wasn't making.
Yeah.
I think that could have been a catalyst for him saying, okay, and then of course, probably doing all those drugs didn't help.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure that didn't help at all. But because it was made for TV, none of the murders happen on screen. I guess we should point that out to anybody who hasn't seen it and is thinking about seeing it. Some of the blood splotches on the walls might be shown. They wrote things like pig and other sayings on the walls with the people's blood. So they do talk about a lot of very graphic things happening because I guess one of the, I believe it was La Bianca, was she the one who was pregnant? One of them was pregnant. They cut the fetus out.
Sharon Tate was pregnant.
Sharon Tate was pregnant. Okay. I knew it was one of them.
With
and
Roman
they do talk about this
baby.
Yeah. They do talk about this very graphically in the film, so you should be aware of that. But it is really interesting about how cults work and how people get drawn into them.
I know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Literally. Charismatic people. We think of that being as a good thing.
Have either of you guys seen Charlie Says?
No, I have not.
That's another one I haven't seen it. That's another Charles Manson based movie. But I guess Charles Manson's not like a main character. He's sort of like a side character. But Charlie, being Charles Manson, is in the title. And Charles Manson is played by Matt Smith. And I've been wanting to see it.
Oh, yeah, that'd be interesting.
That is. So,
all right.
So I got as far as 76.
Okay, well, my final movie, I got into the 90s, 1991. And
see, I beat you both. I had 2026. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And guess what? Another Italian film.
Color me shocked.
And this is it was produced by Dario Argento. It was called The Sect, SECT, but it was also called Devil's Daughter. I think The Devil's Daughter kind of is a better title for me personally, but and it's produced by Dario. It's directed by his longtime protege, Michel Salvi. I don't know. I'm probably butchering that. Sorry out there. Um, and it just follows basically an American school teacher living in Germany, and she finds herself at the of a center of a plot devised by a Luciferian cult. And Herbert Lom isn't in this. Probably one of his last roles, and it's one of these films where it's like you see she escapes some of it and then only to be drawn back into it, and it's like um this one I think has a little bit more of a cohesive plot, but still, I mean, it's just ideas just are patched together as opposed to an actual story. And I came across this maybe 10 years ago, and I first watched it on YouTube, and then I went and bought it on Blu-ray. And it's a lesser known Italian film. I noticed when it got into the 90s, the Italian films kind of lost that um the atmosphere that they had in the 70s and 80s. I mean, this one still had that 80s because it was 91, so it was like it could have been started filming in like 89, so it still had that feeling. And um it's really I find it to be a really good movie if you're looking for something new and different than what you're normally expecting. Um and I like how each of us, we tend to for the most part tend to touch on films that most people haven't seen, because there's so much out there. And it's like if you just looking at from right here your horror movie thing, you're missing out on so much going back decades and brand new stuff like with Gary's stuff. So it's like I suggest, go out and explore. I mean, take a chance on something. Who knows? It may that movie may have gotten a bad rap, but it might be one of your favorites. You never know. You just got to do is just take that chance. And I know it's hard for people to do blind buying. So and I know your position on streaming, Gary, but sometimes people need to do that to see if that's going to be a movie for them to put in their collection. you know, or going on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of like testing it out, seeing is this going to be a film I want to put in my collection? I mean, but we've got 15 films for people out there that are, if they're into supernatural and occult films. I mean, there's tons more. Who knows? We might revisit this.
Yeah, we'll probably do a part 2 at some point.
Yeah.
There's at least one film I really wanted to touch on that I had to cut. So I would like to do that on another one.
Yeah. So if anyone out there, if you guys have your 5 that you think that you could stump us, or things that you think that we're gonna like based on what we've talked about today and in all other episodes, but just leave a comment, let us know, and I'll do the thing. Like and subscribe
and share
share it a lot. I mean,
please.
And so I thank you guys again. I mean, I think we're running. We kind of started a little slow this year, but I think we're going to pick up, get back onto track. I
think so.
With monthly installments. So just stay tuned for the next one. It'll be in April, and I guess until next time, we'll see you.
Thank you very much for watching this episode. And stay tuned for the next one.